Welcome to Heart and Hustle, where love meets mindset. I'm Courtney Ryan, and I'm here to help you level up your heart, your hustle, and your life. Today, we're diving into something that's often misunderstood, oversimplified, or just completely ignored: the hidden psychology of women in love. Not the surface level stuff. Not the cliches. I'm talking about what's really going on beneath the surface, emotionally, mentally, and even biologically, when a woman falls in love. Let's start with something a lot of people don't realize for women. Love is not just a feeling, it's a process. Women are intuitive, emotional beings, yes, but they're also incredibly calculating when it comes to choosing a partner. That's not a bad thing. It's biology, it's protection, it's discernment. While movies make it seem like love just happens, the truth is, for women, real love is built through trust, consistency, and emotional safety over time. Love is a process, not just a feeling. This idea challenges the romanticized version of love we often see in movies and media, where two people lock eyes across the room and instantly know they're meant to be. While chemistry and attraction can certainly spark interest, true love, especially for women, develops in stages. It's not a lightning bolt, it's a gradual unfolding. For women, the experience of love is deeply tied to emotional connection, trust, and consistency. It doesn't just show up one day and stay forever. It's something that's cultivated over time through shared experiences, meaningful conversations, and emotional safety. Women often assess love not only through how they feel in the moment, but through how safe, valued, and understood they feel in the long run. That's why calling love a process is so important to understand. It starts with curiosity and interest. When a woman meets someone new, she might feel an initial spark, but that alone doesn't determine whether love will grow. Instead, she begins to observe. She watches how this person communicates, how consistent they are, how they treat others, and how aligned their actions are with their words. This observation phase is critical because it's the first filter women use to determine whether someone is even worth emotionally investing in. If those early signs are positive, she may begin to open up gradually. This is where the emotional investment starts to build. But again, it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. Even if the chemistry is strong, a woman often needs to see emotional safety before she allows herself to go deeper. That safety isn't created by flashy gestures or surface-level flattery. It's created by showing up consistently, by listening without judgment, by being emotionally present. Biologically speaking, women are wired to protect their emotional well-being, especially when it comes to love and attachment. This is where the psychological aspect kicks in. The subconscious mind is constantly evaluating whether the situation feels secure or unstable. If a man says all the right things but behaves inconsistently, her brain will register that dissonance and interpret it as a warning sign. This protective instinct is not about being difficult or overly cautious, it's about self-preservation. This is why love doesn't just happen for most women. It's not about waiting to be swept off her feet. It's about gradually building trust and emotional intimacy. Even if she wants to fall in love, she needs to feel like she's doing it with someone who will protect, not exploit her vulnerability. That's why the process matters so much. The pace, the progression, the consistency, all of it communicates to her nervous system whether it's safe to love deeply. When people mistake love as a sudden feeling, they often overlook the importance of emotional groundwork. They expect passion to carry the connection, but passion without emotional safety often burns out quickly. For women, love isn't sustainable without a secure foundation. She needs to feel chosen, not just once, but consistently. She needs to feel seen, heard, and respected. These things are not immediate, they are proven over time. Another crucial layer to this process is emotional reciprocity. A woman in love gives deeply, emotionally, mentally, and sometimes physically, but she also watches to see if that energy is returned. If she starts to feel like she's always the one reaching out, always the one initiating, or always the one adapting, the process stalls. Her heart will start to retreat even if she once felt a strong emotional pull. That's part of the psychology. A woman's love is powerful, but it is not given away recklessly. This is why emotionally mature women take their time. It's not about playing games or being difficult. It's about honoring the process. Women who have been hurt before or who understand their worth are even more aware of how vital this emotional timeline is. They're not falling for words, they're paying attention to the entire process. They're asking themselves, does this feel mutual? Does this feel healthy? Does this feel real? Because love that lasts is not built in a moment. It's built in the micro moments, the text that comes when it's not expected, the consistency that doesn't fade after the honeymoon phase, the way someone shows up when life gets messy or inconvenient. These are the moments that turn infatuation into love. They're small, but together they form the larger picture. And for women, that bigger picture is everything. Women fall for patterns, not potential. This truth often gets overlooked in modern dating culture, where charisma and charm can mask inconsistency and emotional immaturity. While a woman may initially be drawn to someone's energy, ambition, or even the idea of who he could become, she ultimately grounds her feelings in what she repeatedly sees over time. Words can be sweet, promises can be big, but actions, especially consistent ones, are what actually shape her sense of emotional safety and long-term interest. In the beginning stages of connection, it's easy to be impressed by potential. Potential is attractive. It represents possibility, hope, and the idea that someone could grow into everything you're looking for. But emotionally intelligent women know that falling for potential is dangerous because potential is a future fantasy, not a present reality. And love can't be built on what might be. It has to be built on what is. This is why women, especially those who have experienced disappointment in relationships, learn to prioritize patterns over promises. Patterns tell the truth. They expose who someone really is regardless of what they say. A man might talk about how much he values communication, but if he disappears for days at a time without explanation, that pattern contradicts his words. He might say he's ready for a serious relationship, but if his behavior shows a lack of effort or emotional availability, the pattern is speaking louder than his potential. Over time, women begin to trust those patterns more than the charm. What creates emotional attraction and long-term attachment for women is not grand gestures here and there, but rather the small, consistent behaviors that build trust. Calling when you say you will, showing up when it matters, listening without interrupting, taking accountability when you mess up. These patterns show reliability, maturity, and respect, qualities that make a woman feel secure and seen. They build emotional momentum in a way that no single act of potential ever could. Even in moments when a woman wants to believe in someone's growth, she'll eventually start to assess whether that growth is visible or just theoretical. She may root for the version of you that she sees beneath the surface. But if your patterns don't align with that version, her heart won't fully engage, because love for a woman is deeply tied to the feeling of emotional safety. And emotional safety doesn't come from what someone could be. It comes from what they consistently are. This is especially true for women who have done the work on themselves. Women who know their worth aren't easily swayed by smooth talk or temporary effort. They've likely experienced situations where they believed in someone's potential, only to be disappointed when the reality didn't match. So they shift their focus to consistency, and they start evaluating men not by their words, but by their behavioral patterns over time. Are they showing up in the same way 3 months in as they did during the first week? Do they follow through? Are they emotionally stable? These patterns matter far more than any future plan or promise. Patterns also reveal emotional intelligence. A man who is self-aware will show it consistently through his actions. He'll make adjustments when necessary. He'll demonstrate respect and maturity in small moments, like how he handles conflict, how he treats service workers, how he responds to stress. These aren't flashy behaviors, but to a woman who's looking for something real, they're everything, because they show the kind of man he is, not the kind of man he says he wants to be. Potential might get you in the door, but patterns are what keep you there. Women often give chances based on potential early on, but they start to close their hearts when the reality doesn't match what they were led to believe. That's why some men feel like things were going great and then suddenly shift. They don't see that a woman has been observing the whole time, collecting data, analyzing patterns. Her emotional attachment doesn't deepen because of what you tell her about the future. It deepens based on how consistently you show up in the present. For women, especially those who value emotional connection and long-term compatibility, the stakes of love are high. Giving her heart isn't just romantic, it's vulnerable. So she leans on what feels stable, not what sounds impressive. She falls in love with how you treat her consistently, how you make her feel regularly, how you show up when no one's watching. That's where real love begins, not in potential, but in the patterns that speak to your character. Emotional safety is the foundation of love. For women, love cannot fully blossom in an environment where they feel uncertain, dismissed, or emotionally unstable. It's not just about being liked or desired. It's about feeling safe enough to be vulnerable, to express feelings openly, and to let their guard down without fear of judgment or rejection. This emotional safety isn't built on grand romantic gestures alone, but on the quiet, steady presence of someone who creates a secure space emotionally and mentally. When a woman is emotionally safe, she can show up as her full self, soft, expressive, intuitive, and open. She's not worried about being misunderstood or criticized for her emotions. She's not second guessing every text or analyzing every silence. She feels like she can breathe, and in that space of calm and trust, love grows. This is the environment where connection deepens, intimacy flourishes, and real partnership becomes possible. The process of building emotional safety starts with consistency. When someone shows up in the same way over time, it creates a baseline of trust. It tells a woman that she doesn't have to be on edge or anticipate chaos. Predictability in how someone communicates, responds to conflict, and supports her emotionally plays a huge role in her ability to attach securely. In contrast, emotional inconsistency, hot and cold behavior, mixed signals, or emotional unavailability creates anxiety. That anxiety becomes a barrier to love even if the chemistry is strong. Emotional safety also comes from being seen and heard. A woman feels emotionally safe when her thoughts and feelings are acknowledged without being minimized or brushed off. She doesn't want someone to fix everything. She wants someone to understand. She wants to feel like her emotional world matters, that her vulnerability isn't a burden, and that her needs aren't too much. When a man listens with presence, validates her perspective, and responds with empathy, he builds a strong emotional foundation that allows her to go deeper into the relationship. Another key aspect of emotional safety is emotional regulation. A man who can manage his own emotions without lashing out, shutting down, or projecting them onto her creates an environment where she feels protected, not pressured. When conflict arises, and it always will, his ability to navigate it with maturity and calmness helps her feel secure. She doesn't fear an argument turning into a breakup or a disagreement becoming a character assassination. She knows that even in tough moments, the relationship remains a safe space. Emotional safety is also built through reliability. When a woman can count on someone, not just for the big moments, but in the everyday interactions, it sends a powerful message that she's valued. Whether it's showing up when you say you will, following through on promises, or being emotionally available during her hard days, these consistent actions speak louder than any declaration of love. They show that love isn't just a word, it's a steady presence. The absence of emotional safety often triggers women to pull back, question the connection, or protect themselves by becoming emotionally distant. Even if they care deeply, they may retreat because their nervous system is signaling that the environment isn't secure. This is often misread as coldness or lack of interest, but in reality, it's self-preservation. Women are deeply intuitive and emotionally responsive, and when something feels off, they may not always explain it logically, but they will feel it in their core. What makes emotional safety so essential is that it allows love to be sustainable. Passion may create excitement and attraction may spark interest, but without emotional security, those feelings fade. Emotional safety is what transforms chemistry into connection and attraction into attachment. It gives love a place to land, to grow, and to deepen. Without it, love feels fragile and fleeting, constantly at the mercy of mood swings, misunderstandings, and unmet needs. Women who value emotional depth are often not asking for perfection. They're asking for presence, for honesty, for respect. For emotional attunement, they want to know that they're not alone in navigating the relationship, that their feelings won't be used against them, that they can express their needs without fear of being labeled needy or dramatic. These are the things that create a sense of emotional safety, and that safety becomes the bedrock upon which deep, lasting love is built. Bonding deepens through consistency and presence. While attraction may spark interest, it's the steady rhythm of emotional connection that builds lasting attachment, especially for women. In the early stages of a relationship, everything can feel exciting and full of potential, but those initial emotions, while powerful, are not enough to create a bond that truly lasts. What makes a woman feel connected on a deep level is knowing that the person she's with is consistently showing up, not just when things are easy or new, but over time and through real life. Consistency is what tells a woman she's safe. It allows her to slowly open up, to trust, to believe that she can let down her guard without being met with disappointment or confusion. When someone is present emotionally and mentally, not just physically, it sends the message that she matters, that her feelings are being felt, that her words are being heard, that her presence is appreciated beyond just the surface level. This is the type of attention that builds emotional intimacy, the kind of connection that deepens naturally and securely. Presence means being emotionally available, not just physically near. A man can be in the same room, but if his attention is elsewhere or if he's disconnected emotionally, she will feel it. Women are extremely intuitive when it comes to sensing emotional energy. They pick up on the smallest cues: tone of voice, eye contact, body language. When a man is truly present, it creates a powerful space of connection. She feels that she can be herself. She doesn't have to perform, edit her emotions, or hide her needs. She's simply able to exist fully in the relationship. When presence is paired with consistency, the bond begins to grow stronger. Women don't fall in love because of one incredible date or a single romantic moment. They fall in love through a collection of emotionally meaningful experiences that prove this person is who they say they are. It's the text that comes when she least expects it, but most needs it. It's the way he remembers the little things she says, the subtle support he offers when she's struggling, and the way he shows up for her even when there's nothing in it for him. These aren't random acts, they're patterns. And patterns build trust. A consistent presence reassures a woman that her emotional investment is safe. She doesn't have to wonder if he'll disappear when things get serious or if he only shows up when it benefits him. Instead, she knows she can lean into the relationship with confidence. She doesn't feel the need to test his love because his actions already answer her questions. This clarity allows her to relax emotionally, which is essential for deeper bonding. A relaxed heart is an open heart, and an open heart is one that can love fully. When a woman begins to feel emotionally bonded, she often becomes more affectionate, more nurturing, and more emotionally generous. But she only moves into that space when she feels consistently emotionally held. If she senses that a partner is inconsistent, saying the right things but failing to follow through, showing affection one day and withdrawing the next, she will instinctively begin to protect herself. That emotional wall, even if it's subtle, becomes a barrier to connection. And once it's up, it can take time and effort to break it back down. True presence also involves being attuned to her needs without needing her to spell everything out. It's being in the moment enough to notice when she's not herself, when she's pulling back, or when she needs extra support. It's not about reading minds, it's about paying attention. Emotional attunement is a form of consistency in itself. It shows that you're not just there, but that you care enough to truly understand. This kind of awareness makes a woman feel cherished in a way that words alone cannot achieve. Inconsistent behavior, on the other hand, creates doubt and emotional tension. Even small things, like frequently canceling plans, failing to follow up, or going silent during important moments, send a message that the connection may not be a priority. Over time, this chips away at emotional security. A woman will start to question the bond even if she wants to believe in it. And once that trust begins to erode, it becomes harder for the relationship to deepen because the foundation no longer feels solid. The beauty of consistency and presence is that they don't require perfection. They just require effort, attention, and care. The ability to show up in a grounded, emotionally steady way creates the environment for real love to take root. For women, this emotional stability isn't just attractive, it's necessary. It's what allows her to move from curiosity to connection, from interest to intimacy, and from attraction to true, lasting love. Real love raises a woman's standards. When a woman experiences a love that is grounded in mutual respect, emotional safety, and authentic connection, it changes how she sees herself and what she accepts from others. This kind of love acts like a mirror. It reflects back her value, her worth, and her power. It doesn't just make her feel loved, it makes her feel more aligned with her true self. And once she's had a taste of that kind of love, she can no longer tolerate anything that feels less than genuine, less than safe, or less than emotionally fulfilling. A woman in real love becomes more self-aware. She starts to notice what she truly needs instead of what she used to settle for. She becomes attuned to the way someone's energy affects her peace, how their words impact her heart, and how their presence supports or drains her. She no longer ignores red flags just because the chemistry is strong or because the connection feels exciting. That old version of her who tolerated emotional inconsistency or fought for crumbs of affection doesn't fit into this new reality anymore. Real love teaches her to choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and reciprocity over one-sided effort. This shift is internal. It's not about becoming guarded or unapproachable. It's about becoming intentional. When a woman has experienced a healthy, nurturing love, her tolerance for emotional immaturity and surface-level attraction goes down significantly. She knows the difference between love that builds and love that breaks. She recognizes that true intimacy feels calm, grounded, and stable, not just passionate and fleeting moments. And she stops romanticizing the emotional roller coasters that once felt like connection. Experiencing real love also encourages a woman to strengthen her boundaries. Not out of fear, but out of self-respect. She no longer feels the need to overextend herself to be chosen, to prove her worth through self-sacrifice, or to chase validation from emotionally unavailable partners. Instead, she stands firm in what she knows she deserves. She understands that saying no to what doesn't serve her makes space for what genuinely aligns with her. She doesn't settle just to avoid loneliness because she's tasted what it feels like to be truly loved, and that feeling becomes her standard. This evolution isn't just about romantic relationships, it spills into every area of her life. She may start to evaluate friendships, career choices, and lifestyle habits through the same lens of alignment and emotional fulfillment. Real love doesn't just change who she dates, it changes how she sees the world. It shifts her focus from external validation to internal alignment. She begins to ask herself better questions. Does this bring me peace? Do I feel safe here? Am I being met with the same energy I give? These are the standards that guide her now. It's important to understand that this transformation is gradual. A woman may not immediately notice the impact that real love has on her standards, but over time, it becomes clear in the choices she makes. She stops entertaining inconsistent energy. She loses interest in situations that lack depth or emotional availability. The kind of connection that once held power over her, usually driven by uncertainty or emotional highs and lows, no longer excites her in the same way. Because now she knows what it feels like to be chosen every day, not just in moments of convenience. Real love also makes her more emotionally generous, but only when it's safe to do so. She's still capable of deep compassion, care, and connection, but she no longer gives those parts of herself away carelessly. She's learned that her love is valuable, and she protects it accordingly. She still believes in emotional depth, but she doesn't force it. She lets people show her who they are through time and behavior. She doesn't just listen to intentions, she watches for consistent action. And when the energy isn't aligned, she's willing to walk away, not out of bitterness, but because her standards won't let her stay. This is the quiet confidence that comes from experiencing something real. A woman who's been loved right doesn't need to scream her worth from the rooftops. She carries it in how she moves, how she speaks, and what she entertains. She trusts her intuition more deeply, she values her peace more fiercely, and she listens to the energy of those around her with more discernment. Real love shows her that she was never asking for too much. She was just asking the wrong people. And now she knows the difference. A woman's intuition is her superpower in love. It's not just a feeling, it's a deep internal guidance system that picks up on things before the mind can fully process them. Intuition helps a woman sense alignment, energy, and truth in ways that aren't always visible on the surface. It's that quiet nudge when something feels off, even if everything looks good on paper. It's the subtle knowing when someone's words don't match their actions. And when a woman learns to trust that internal voice, it becomes one of her greatest tools in choosing love that is healthy, real, and emotionally safe. Many women are taught to override their intuition. They're conditioned to give people the benefit of the doubt, to stay polite, to not make assumptions. And while empathy and open-mindedness are important, they should never come at the cost of self-trust. When a woman repeatedly silences her gut feelings to maintain harmony or avoid conflict, she begins to disconnect from her most powerful source of wisdom. Over time, this can lead to staying in situations that don't serve her, tolerating behavior that doesn't align with her values, or confusing chemistry with compatibility. Intuition isn't fear. Fear is reactive and anxious. It's based on past wounds or future worries. Intuition, on the other hand, is calm, quiet, and present. It doesn't panic, it observes. It whispers truths that can't be explained logically, but are felt deeply. A woman might not be able to articulate why something doesn't sit right with her, but she'll feel it in her body. Maybe her chest tightens. Maybe she feels restless around someone. Maybe a certain comment lingers longer than it should. These are all signals from her intuitive system, nudging her to pay closer attention. When a woman learns to honor those signals, she begins to move through relationships with more clarity and self-assurance. She doesn't need someone to validate her feelings for them to be real. She stops outsourcing her reality to other people's opinions and instead tunes inward. This kind of self-trust transforms how she navigates love. She's no longer easily swayed by surface, level charm, or distracted by potential. She reads between the lines. She picks up on tone, timing, and subtle inconsistencies. And while she may still choose to give people grace, she no longer gaslights herself in the process. Women who are deeply intuitive often experience moments where they know something before it unfolds. They may feel an energetic shift in the relationship before a breakup happens. They may sense emotional distance even when communication seems fine. They may recognize someone's emotional availability, or lack thereof, within minutes of meeting them. This isn't magic. It's the result of emotional sensitivity, empathy, and an ability to absorb unspoken cues. And the more a woman leans into that gift instead of questioning it, the stronger it becomes. In love, intuition helps a woman discern between emotional depth and emotional danger. It allows her to sense when vulnerability is welcomed and when it's being exploited. It helps her recognize when someone is truly present versus just performing presence. It guides her toward partners who feel emotionally safe and away from dynamics that drain or confuse her. Even if a connection feels exciting or intense, her intuition reminds her to check in. Does this feel safe? Does this feel reciprocal? Does this feel right? There's also a spiritual layer to a woman's intuition. It's deeply connected to her emotional rhythm, her creativity, and her feminine energy. When she's in touch with this part of herself, she becomes magnetic, not because she's trying to be, but because she's moving in alignment. She honors her feelings, speaks her truth, and trusts her timing. And in doing so, she attracts love that resonates on a soul level, not just a surface level. She starts to prioritize alignment over approval, and that shift alone changes everything. But developing this level of trust with her intuition takes time, especially if she's been in relationships that required her to suppress it. Gaslighting, emotional manipulation, and trauma can all cloud intuitive clarity. That's why healing is such an important part of strengthening this inner voice. As a woman begins to reconnect with her body, her emotions, and her sense of self-worth, her intuition becomes clearer. She no longer confuses anxiety for instinct. She knows the difference between a trauma response and a true red flag. She listens to herself with more compassion, more confidence, and more clarity. When a woman trusts her intuition in love, she no longer chases, she no longer explains herself over and over trying to be understood by someone who isn't listening. She doesn't stay in emotionally unavailable situations hoping for change. Instead, she moves with quiet certainty. She removes herself from what drains her and protects her peace without guilt. And she does it all not because she's cold or closed off, but because she's deeply in tune with herself. She knows what it feels like to be emotionally safe. And her intuition becomes the compass that keeps her moving toward it.